So, what does Columbus have to do with Kesha? The answer is obviously none other than timber. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But before we do, your goal today is you want to research. This is sort of like an introductory video to Columbus, his early life, his initial explorations, and how he came to sail across the ocean blue for Spain. So we'll get into it a little bit. Firstly, you're going to have to gather enough research today so you'll be able to complete an assignment by Thursday. And you'll be getting that later. Few things we want to talk about. Number one are myths about Columbus. So we're going to debunk some of those myths. Number one, that Columbus discovered America. In fact, we know because you just learned about the Native Americans that the ancestors of the Native Americans were already living here, therefore they discovered it. If you want to talk about Europe, even before Columbus became the explorer for Spain, there was reports in the thousands that Leif Erikson and the Vikings had made it all the way to Canada to Newfoundland. And there's also reports that some Chinese explorers had ventured into the Americas, although that is unproven and the Viking stories are also debatable. What we do know about Columbus is that his exploration into the New World led to many more explorations, which we'll look at later in this unit. Number two, Columbus believed that the world was not flat, and he actually figured it out for the first time. That's also false. We know from the 1300s on that most people, scientists, had already discovered that the world was not flat, that it was round. And Columbus, by 1492, knew this, like many other explorers. Third one, Columbus was Italian. Yes, technically Genoa is in Italy. However, Genoese is not really the same as Italian. It's a province like Venice, like Sicily, and they all acted as independent countries. A little bit about Columbus's early life. Columbus came from working class background, but he didn't want anyone to know it. His father was a weaver in Genoa. Columbus wanted to reach the upper class. His ticket was to become a sailor and ultimately become a captain. His brother had done the same. Columbus supposedly had two brothers. One of them had ventured off to Portugal, and Columbus likewise made his way to Portugal in the late 1470s, and he worked as a merchant traveling the seas all the way to Africa, where he was responsible for buying sugar. Africa was well known for its fertile land, and in particular growing sugar at the time, and this is how Portugal, trading with those African kingdoms, had gotten that sugar. Remember, Portugal is also going around Africa, so they're very familiar with this area. This is the time period that Bartholomew Diaz is making it around the tip of Africa. He's trying to get to India. His crew gets scared. They turn around. They say, we need to go home. And Vasco da Gama looks at Diaz's journey and does him one better by actually making it to India, to Calcutta. Columbus looks at this and he sees opportunity, because going around Africa seems like a very treacherous journey. Not only are you dealing with pirates, but you have African kingdoms that you have to court by bringing supplies and whatnot. And Columbus is looking at the map from Ptolemy, the updated map, and he sees that Europe is next to Asia. If you go west, you're going to hit Asia, potentially Japan, and you'll be able to hit the Indies from there, where you can get those spices. So what he does is he decides, all right, I'm going to try to, go for Portugal. I'm going to write a letter to King John II in Portugal. Hopefully he'll say yes. Unfortunately for him, King John says no. He gets rejected. Portugal's ahead because they have the caravels, which are their new fast boats that are venturing around Africa. But again, they believe that the seas are dangerous. They have sea monsters, and he shouldn't be going west. So who does Columbus turn to? Well, obviously, Portugal's chief rival, which is Spain. He goes to the Spanish court where King Ferdinand and Isabella reside, and he starts trying to convince them in 1485 to allow him to sail for Spain. They repeatedly say no. There's no way they're going to do this. They have other matters at this time. 1492 is the year that Columbus sails, but it is also the year that Spain kicks out all Jews and Muslims. So they're trying to create a pure Catholic empire and nation, and by doing that, it's taking up their energies to kick out the Jews and Muslims to Africa. 1492, Columbus, though, as a last-ditch effort, goes up to Queen Isabella, tries to convince her one more time, and this time she says yes. Really, it's not a high cost to her, 3 ships. As far as who's going on his venture with him, it's going to be guys who are typically the losers, the bottom rungs of Spanish society, the criminals, former convicts, people who are in debt. They're all going to form Columbus's crew, because if something happens, those are the ones that the Spanish Empire would most or least miss. Religion will come later in conquering. Right now they're trying to find a trade route. They don't know yet that that's an entirely new continent that they're going to hit in the Americas. So once they figure it out, and they figure out that these people are Native Americans, they're not Indians, then religion will become a reason to go back again and again so they can convert people. But in the meantime, they're on the search for resources. And one of those resources is gold, and another is Kesha, timber. What's timber being used for? To build a lot of buildings, most notably cathedrals. The Spanish court uses up a lot of wood, like other countries. So Europe at this time has actually gone through a huge deforestation process where they've gone through tons of trees to try to use up those resources. And when they discover that in the Americas there are more trees, many, many more trees, then they begin to conquer. Here's a little map. Top 5, as you can see. If you look at the Americas there, this is by 1800. You can see where the top 5 countries reside. The only country not there is the Netherlands has a tiny piece of land, but pretty much they're extinct from North America. Spain clearly dominating. England at one point dominates, but of course after the Revolutionary War they're no longer as powerful. So this is what's going to happen. Spain's going to go, and it's going to lead to further exploration. The question we're going to be answering later in the week is Columbus and that should say, is Columbus a hero or a villain? We'll talk about that later. What we do know for absolute sure is that Columbus sets the precedent for more exploration. So there is something that happens from his journey. That does not happen with Leif Erikson. That does not happen with Native Americans. Your next step is to sign up for Zondel with your class code. That's going to be posted on the wiki. You're going to play the Zondel game Columbus until you get 100%. Once you're done with that, then you're going to research Columbus's early life and initial voyages to the New World on the wiki below this video. Okay?